It's not that, though. It's that Bill's just genuinely stupid. Because, like, any honest assessment of the current cultural divide in this country does not lead you to conclude that billionaires are all conspiring to make it happen. This is what I tell you, my friends, you know what I can't stand?
All right, let's get straight into it. This debate between Tim Pool and Bill Burr is wild. We've got Tim Pool breaking down the absurdity of Bill Burr's class warfare rhetoric, and honestly, it's about time someone did. Bill Burr's out here making it sound like a handful of billionaires are orchestrating every problem in the world while ignoring the fact that he's sitting comfortably in the same elite circle he's pretending to rally against. So let's dive into this and set the record straight.
Well, and most of them anyways, as you know, if you look at any of these companies, granted, we're seeing a large shift right now in policies from like tech companies that are seeming to move slightly the other direction as the pendulum swings. But it's not like they ever gave to one party. They gave to both parties, assuming that they're going to try and get favors in return by giving to both of them. But when he talks about all of this, he's talking about it as if there's 3 or 4 people that are causing all of these problems. It's just far more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's the same thing when they talk about taxes, too. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, they need to pay their fair share, but yet their
best option would be for you to pay less taxes rather than that guy pay more.
Exactly.
Like if the idea here is that you feel wrong done by, it's not that you want this other guy to be as wrong done by as you were. The idea is that they should do less to you and less to him as well. Like they should take less of your money and less of his money rather than trying to take more of his money to even out the score so that you feel as if both of you got screwed equally.
Well, I mean, he says it himself that he thinks it's a zero-sum game. The reason you're poor is because of someone else. It's really easy to convince people that are struggling that it's someone else's fault. Just like what Tim was saying, you can find someone to blame very easily, and that's all Bill's doing. He's just catering to the inclination, the people that already have an inclination to hate the rich. But the thing that he's missing is he's the rich too. Like the people that are billionaires, like we were talking about this morning, like Elon Musk employs a lot of people at Tesla and SpaceX and all of the companies he owns, and Bezos employs a lot of people at Amazon, and the guy, and the Walton family, they employ a lot of people at Walmart. All of those companies, or those 3 companies, make life possible for thousands of Americans, probably tens of thousands.
What if you want to talk about, like, if he was more in depth, he's like, what if we're talking about the people at BlackRock buying up all of the homes so that people don't have access to housing and then driving up the rent? There's a conversation to be had there, but he's not going to go that in depth.
That's the board, but even like the people that own BlackRock are like everybody that owns some kind of 401k. Everybody that has their savings in the stock market. If you own just the Dow, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, you can buy that itself as a stock. Then you own a piece of BlackRock, and if you own BlackRock stock, you own all this. So it's not, you're right. It's not as simple as just these guys are the bad guys.
And they've turned billionaire with a B, like capital letter B, into a slur in a way, which is like, and it's so funny because we started with Bernie earlier saying that the second he became a millionaire, it was no longer the millionaires and the billionaires. It's now just the billionaires that you're criticizing because you want to take all of the onus off you and put it on someone else. But like you said earlier, they're not going to distingui's between the two.
Yeah, they don't care. To the average person that sits there and says Luigi was right, they're like, oh, he got that CEO, blah, blah, blah. The CEO that he killed was worth about $40 million. Rumor has it that Crystal Ball is also worth $40 million. There's the amount of money of $40 million. It's a lot of money. Okay, don't.
Real quick, what day did this podcast come out?
It was on Monday. We talked about it today, but the clip was just making the rounds. I mean, this is also
the point is like $40 million. Whereas it's a lot of money, it's a very, very, very long way away from $1 billion. Yeah. And the guy that Luigi killed had $40 million. If you foment this kind of class warfare, if you're into that, Bill Burr, they're gonna come for you.
Exactly. That's the thing these so-called revolutionaries never seem to get. The second you create a movement fueled by envy and resentment, it doesn't just stop with billionaires. First it's the billionaires, then it's the multimillionaires, then suddenly anyone with a little more than the next guy becomes the enemy. It's funny because Bill Burr is sitting on millions, acting like he's still one of the people. Bro, you're not. You're part of the class you're demonizing. And if this whole eat the rich mentality takes off, you're on the menu too.
I just have a question, genuine question on your guys' opinion, and the audience. Feel free. I'll ask you guys this. Bill Burr's podcast. I was curious. I mean, this is incitement to violence.
I didn't know what to put for the thumbnail because like,
Right.
is what he doing actually inciting violence?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
So the principal rule, as someone who works in media and podcasting with a particularly large show, is that you cannot direct people to commit harm against another group of people. It may not cross into illegal territory. What would make something illegal is to direct a specific action. So if you said, I think this group of people, something should happen to it, like Bill Burr did, that's not illegal, but it violates every terms of service of every podcast platform.
I will say, though, there is something to be said for cancel culture when it's done right. Like a lot of people what we came through was unreasonable. We wanted to have conversations about the things that we found to be distasteful through all the transing and all of that. And right now in the gaming world, some of our friends, It's Based, shout out to It's Based. They're another group. They're a group that actually came out of your Discord as well. Cool. Their guy is over in, I think it's actually Sweden is where he's based out of, but most of his devs are here. And their whole campaign right now is this what gamers want? And they're actively calling out gaming companies and some tech companies in the Linux realm for pushing trans stuff and saying, dude, get away from all of this.
I think we should cancel Bill Burr. We should boycott. And I'll tell you why. You make a good point about the scale of things. They're going to come out and they're going to be like, I thought you guys were for free speech and blah, blah, blah. Actually, we were always against calling for death and violence. Mm-hmm. The issue was, particularly when it came to, say, like Twitter and their gendering policies, Meghan Murphy said, men aren't women, though. That's the quote. And they banned her permanently for having said that. That's an opinion statement. She didn't call for violence. She didn't threaten anybody. She didn't insult anybody. She was having a conversation with someone. Remember when Zuby got suspended for saying, okay, dude?
Yeah.
Was that what he said? He said, okay, dude?
Yeah.
Yep.
He wasn't misgendering anybody. Someone snarkily responded to him, so he was like, okay, dude. It's like a whatever. And they suspended him for it, so he made the T-shirts. That's what we opposed. Bill Burr has sponsors on this podcast where he's saying people should die. And not just that, he's saying they need to be put down. That's what he's saying. That is not creating an imminent threat, so it's not illegal. But he's not just saying, when I opened the show, I said, it's not that he wants them to die. He wants them to not be alive anymore. That's a joke from Family Guy. Mm-hmm. Quite literally, he's stated in his show, he wants people to take an action against them.
Here's the thing. Free speech doesn't mean speech without consequences. If this kind of rhetoric is okay for Bill Burr, then it should be okay across the board. But we all know it isn't. This is the same crowd that loses their minds over a wrong pronoun, but shrugs when someone calls for actual violence against people they don't like. If we're going to talk about rules for public discourse, then apply them evenly. Or admit it's just about silencing the people you don't agree with. At the end of the day, Tim Pool is doing what he always does, calling out hypocrisy and breaking down the nonsense in a way that actually makes sense. Bill Burr, he's just playing to a crowd that wants someone to blame instead of taking responsibility. And the real kicker, he's too rich to ever feel the consequences of the garbage he's pushing. So, what do you guys think? Should Bill Burr be held accountable the way they'd hold anyone else? Or do we let him keep making a fool of himself? Let's hear it.